Hello and welcome. Today is Thursday, May 15, 2025. Thank you for being here. We're going to listen to a little bit of the end of Robert Alessi's cross of Dr. Scorty Bello, the medical examiner in the Massachusetts versus Karen Reed case. But before we do that, I'd like to play this video from Brandy Magnoli. It's pretty good, and it's followed up by a video from Brandy Churchwell. I believe she's the 13th juror. I don't know. I'm sorry, guys. Guys, if you didn't know, I don't really watch other channels, with the exception of like attorneys. I follow a few attorneys. That's why I share a lot from Ian Runkle and maybe microdots. I'll catch microdots as much as I can. And that's about it. A lot of the content I create is based off of supporters, like the things that the supporters are saying, or court documents. I will read you source material, directly from the court. Yeah, so I don't really watch other channels. So if I ever like other channels that are following this case, I stick to myself for the most part. Which is why I make it clear on my homepage that my YouTube channel is not affiliated with any other YouTube channel. Like I'll also share content from Aidan Kearney because he's highly informed about this case, and I just think he's a great journalist. He's hilarious. He's really funny. And that's what I think. I think a lot of people who don't like Aidan don't get him. Like his persona is part of his delivery, if that makes sense. It's he's a whole package. So anyway, so I appreciate him. So with the exception of Aidan, Microdots, Richie from Microdots, a few attorneys, I don't really follow other YouTube channels. So if I ever get a channel wrong, or if I ever get a content creator wrong, feel free to correct me in the comments. And again, understand that I'm in a little bit of an echo chamber intentionally, because I like to think for myself, and I like to create content that isn't unintentionally influenced by other content creators, if that makes sense. So anyway, this is Brandy Magnoli. I've met her a few times at the standouts outside the court, and I follow her on social media, and she always has really good things to say about this case. So let's listen to what she has to say, and then we will listen to Brandy Churchwell.
Dear Massachusetts residents, please listen to this video and then wait and keep track and document how many days it takes, how many cops actually are punished and held accountable for perjury, because they have been caught lying on the stand, multiple Massachusetts state troopers, active troopers. If you go back and you name them and you compare their testimonies, all these provable lies under oath, while the entire world watches, including Massachusetts leaders and lawmakers and courthouse judges, and all of them are aware of what's going on. Now let's sit back as regular citizens. Let's sit back as taxpayers. Let's sit back as the ones who put the money in the pockets of all of these people, and watch exactly how long it takes for accountability to kick in, exactly how long it takes before the black and white wording on the perjury charge, if ever is one, to be, you know what I mean? Like, how long is it going to take before the state of Massachusetts actually does their job and holds these people accountable? Because as of right now, every single Massachusetts state trooper that has lied on the stand and committed perjury still sits pretty, still sits active, still sits collecting their pension or their paycheck every week. They're allowed to commit crimes on TV, on national television, for all of us to watch, and they do nothing. The government does nothing. How do you feel about that, whether you live here or not? How do you feel? Because knowing any other regular citizen, if they committed a crime on television and they got caught lying about it, their ass would be being beat right now in a jail cell.
And guys, as I continue to say, I live in Massachusetts. I thankfully don't live in Norfolk County. I live in Essex County. But it's angering enough for me living in Massachusetts that this is happening anywhere in Massachusetts. And I agree with Brandy. Like, where are the consequences for these members of law enforcement, especially those who are still on the tax dollar payroll, and they behave as if they are entitled to their tax dollar paycheck. They behave as if they're doing us a favor, right? When actually we are all doing them a favor, and they are all working off of our backs, off of the money we bring into the system, right? Brandy's got excellent points here. And again, Judge Beverly Cannoni in Norfolk County, Judge Beverly Cannoni, this is additionally why people don't trust you. This is additionally why people believe you are biased, because you sit there in that courtroom now in round 2 in the retrial, and you witness all of these members of law enforcement commit perjury and gaslight everybody, and you allow them to. You allow them to.
And that's a fact. Because not only are you mistreated in jail, it's just a whole different type of justice behind the scenes. It's not like it's just imagine where they're trying to send Karen Reed, an innocent sick woman right now. And just tell me again why you're not out in the streets with me, protesting every day, at least 3. Like, I do 3 hours a day, but come on now. This isn't a problem for everyone right now.
Yeah, like, and Brandy's got a great point. Like, Karen Reed is sick. She's sick. She's got multiple medical conditions, right? And she's innocent, provably innocent, scientifically innocent. Why aren't any one of these perjurers, why aren't any one of these members of law enforcement, why aren't any of their lives in peril? Right? The ones who lie, the ones who hide evidence, the ones who destroy evidence and manipulate evidence. Why aren't any one of those assholes in peril? Why is it this innocent woman with multiple medical conditions, who again lost her boyfriend and didn't really get an opportunity to mourn him, to mourn his loss, because she was immediately charged with his murder? She was immediately framed for his murder.
This isn't the biggest safety issue. All of our leaders are literally sitting on their ass doing nothing about this. The people who can handcuff you, throw you in a cell, ruin your future, ruin you right now, destroy your family, destroy public trust. It can all play out in real time. You can watch crimes happen right now in real time if you're following the Karen Reed case.
I'm live streaming right now. That's me. That's me right there. And Dr. Scordy Bello, the medical examiner, is on the stand, and she's talking.
So again, guys, this is the video that is attached to the Brandy Magnoli video we just watched. And this is Brandy Churchwell. And again, I believe she's from the 13th Juror podcast. I don't know if I'm if I'm wrong. Forgive me. But guys, it's a really good clip. Please pay attention.
Talking about the autopsy that she did of Officer John O'Keefe. And then this picture comes up. This is Trooper Connor Keefe, who testified on day 11. And this is Michael Proctor and Keefe. But here's the problem. On day 11, Trooper Connor Keefe told us that he was at that autopsy and that nobody else from his unit, which is the Norfolk County Homicide Unit, was there.
With regard to other members of your unit, you were the only one to attend that autopsy?
Yes.
Okay, but we see. Did you know this picture existed? Did you know that when you said that on the stand? Did you know? Did you know? Do you know? You don't know? What is happening in this trial? Okay, I'm live.
So excellent video from Brandy Magnoli and Brandy Churchwell. It's funny, both of their names are Brandy. So I've never met Brandy Churchwell, but I have met Brandy Magnoli, and she creates great content on her own channel. I believe she's on like Instagram or X, I'm not sure, but I more so follow her in the Facebook groups, and she creates content on there, and she always has a lot of good things to say. So anyway, guys, we're going to listen to Robert Alessi's cross of Dr. Scordy Bello, again the medical examiner who could not determine the manner of death for Officer John O'Keefe, but she was able to determine certain causes of death.
Do you recall discussing at all on your direct examination? Well, let me ask it this way. Did you evaluate at all in your autopsy a gray hoodie sweatshirt of Mr. O'Keefe?
No, I did not.
So were you aware that there was clothing associated with Mr. O'Keefe when he came as part of the autopsy?
He did not have any clothing that came to us. The clothing was removed at the hospital and was packaged and I believe submitted as evidence.
So the clothing of Mr. O'Keefe, a t-shirt or a hoodie, didn't make its way to you?
No.
Which is an excellent point to bring out. Just like Brandy Churchwell brought up how the prosecution is lying so much about Michael Proctor this time around. During the first trial, they relied heavily on Michael Proctor, right? But during this trial, it's like, who dis? New phone, who dis? Who's Michael Proctor? I don't know who he is, right? To the extent that they will even have some of the MSP lie about Michael Proctor being in attendance for the autopsy, this autopsy. So, you know, the fact that Dr. Scorti-Bello didn't have John O'Keefe's clothing is peculiar to me. As again, like if you guys have listened to Dr. Marie Russell, she mentions clothing in her observations. She mentions the importance of having the clothing in her observations to better understand the wounds occurring on the body. You know, the tears in the cloth of the clothing absolutely help in determining the causes of the wounds or the causes of the force, you know, the infliction of the wounds. And for Scorti-Bello to like not even be bothered that she wasn't given the clothing is bothersome to me. And guys, before this is toward the end of Robert Alessi's cross. And it's an excellent cross, which is why I picked this segment. But like before this segment, Robert Alessi asked Dr. Scorti-Bello if she could determine what the wounds were to John O'Keefe's arm. And I've argued in previous videos that a medical examiner, an experienced medical examiner, an experienced forensic pathologist would look at John O'Keefe's arm and immediately notice that those are at least from animals, from bites, right? Maybe not a dog, maybe not a deer, but something scratched and bit him, right? At minimum, an experienced medical examiner or forensic pathologist would be able to see John O'Keefe's arm from a distance without even picking it up, from a distance, and they'd be able to say, those are from an animal. Those marks are from an animal or a deranged human being, right? And Scorti-Bello alleges that she has no idea what those wounds are on John O'Keefe's arm. So is she really all that qualified? That's my question.
You were unable to reach a determination as to the manner of death of Mr. O'Keefe, correct?
That is correct.
So you had doubts about the manner of death of Mr. O'Keefe, and you consider those doubts reasonable?
Sustained.
You were not able to reach a determination as to the manner of death of Mr. O'Keefe, correct?
Correct.
In manner of death, as you've testified, includes the circumstances surrounding death in addition to the medical analysis that you performed. Okay.
I'm sustaining it, asked and answered.
Thank you.
And I noticed someone else point this out, but Dr. Scordi-Bello closes her eyes a whole lot during her testimony. I don't know if it's her way of being hyper-focused, like being present in the moment, like she's just going to close her eyes and avoid all distractions to better answer the question. You know, I don't know. It could be her way, it could be her method. I'm just saying she seems to be closing her eyes a lot and for long periods of time. Like there are even instances in which her eyes are closed and she's answering the question. It's very interesting.
Thank you for answering my questions, Dr. Scordi-Bello.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you, Mr. Leslie, Mr. Brennan.
So brace yourselves for yet more misrepresentation from Brennan.
Doctor, how many autopsies have you performed in your professional career?
At this point, more than 1,200.
When the person is brought to you, are they usually clothed?
It depends on the circumstances. If a person comes directly from their residence, they may or may not be clothed. If the person comes from a hospital where they went first for treatment, many times the person is unclothed. They may be wearing a hospital gown, but in most cases that clothing has already been removed.
If that clothing has already been processed, is it common that it would be brought to you for inspection?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained is to.
Is clothing that is not accompanying the person's body commonly brought to you for observation?
Objection, Your Honor.
So let's move on. Or ask it.
You were asked questions about your opinions relative to spot.
And guys, just notice that the reason Brennan is bringing up the clothing is because Robert Alessi made a really good point during his cross, especially the way Robert Alessi asked the question, "You didn't have his clothing?" A very concerned Robert Alessi, and it's on purpose. It's part of the delivery. I just love Alessi. And yeah, that's why Brennan knew that would set off red flags for the jury. And that was his attempt to be like, isn't it common that you wouldn't necessarily get the clothes? And it was objected to because he didn't lay a proper foundation.
In the organs of Mr. O'Keefe, and you were asked about part of your statement in the grand jury. When you provide statements, is it important to have the statement in context to understand it?
Yes.
Is it important to have a complete statement rather than just part of a statement?
Yes.
And when you were asked the question that counsel asked you, do you remember that grand jury testimony you gave?
I remember it was a long time ago.
Okay.
But I do remember most of it.
Do you remember when he read part of your answer? It was in response to a grand juror's question.
Yes.
And he read part to you, right? I understand your question. And my answer is that I don't know, but given the environment, so if the injuries had been sustained in a different environment where the temperature wasn't that low, then there might have been an alternative explanation for those gastric and pancreatic hemorrhages. Do you remember that?
Objection, Your Honor.
The doctor can answer that.
Do you remember Attorney Alisi read you that part of your statement?
Yes.
Do you remember that you had more to that statement that was left off when he confronted you with it?
I'm sure there's more to this.
To complete your statement, you said, but in the whole context.
Guys, I'm going to leave the link to this hearing. This is day 15, I believe. I'm going to leave the link in the description below if you didn't get a chance to watch it, because I suggest you look at her body language. She is really stressed out and she's really tense. She seems to be under a lot of pressure. Like, I wouldn't want to be her. And I'm not suggesting that the prosecution is putting pressure on her. I think from the first trial and from her own determinations, Scorty Bello proved to the world that she isn't just going to say whatever the prosecution wants her to say. But I do think that because she works for the Commonwealth in this instance, there is some pressure with her. And, you know, the fact that Hank Brennan has coached everybody else that he took on the stand, I wouldn't be surprised if he coached her as well. So I'm just saying, I don't know. It must be Hank Brennan. It must be the prosecution. It must be the energy of the entire courtroom. But it's, again, I wouldn't want to be her. She's under a lot of pressure right now.
I believe that those are signs of hypothermia and not caused. Do you remember that completion to your statement?
Sustained. You can show her the statement.
Okay. I can approach. Ask you to take a look at part of your grand jury testimony. Do you remember Attorney Alisi reading part of your answer back?
Objection, Your Honor.
So I'll strike that. Have the witness look at it and go through it.
You asked about your.
It's the way Hank Brennan is representing it to the jury on purpose. He keeps implying that Robert Alessi left out shit, right? It's perfectly cool for this prosecution to play clips of Karen Reed's interviews entirely out of context, but it's not okay for Robert Alessi to take a segment of Scorty Bello's statement and repeat it back to her, right? It's not okay. To Brennan, that's taking it out of context, but playing all these clips and not showing the entirety of these interviews, that's totally cool, right? Again, hypocrite. All these hypocrites.
Your entire answer or just part of it?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Would you read the rest of the answer that you weren't given when it was read to you?
Objection, Your Honor.
So this is phrased as refreshing recollection, so follow it appropriately.
Do you now remember there was more to your answer?
Yes.
And I would be really pissed off if I were Judge Bev. I would be so pissed off that clearly these are valid objections because she's not letting Hank Brennan have it, right? She's actually listening to the defense for once, right? So I'm saying I would be pissed if I were Judge Bev that Hank Brennan is asking these questions in a manner he knows is out of bounds, but he keeps doing it because what Hank Brennan wants is to win the jury's perception here. He wants to win them back. He knows that Robert Alessi successfully gave the jury reasonable doubt.
Could you share with us the rest of your answer?
Without reading
Objection, Your Honor.
it. Without reading it. Turn it over, turn the paper over, please.
I can take it, Your Honor.
Ask the appropriate questions to her.
There she goes, right? She's like, you're making me work really fucking hard, Brennan. Like, chill the fuck out, all right? Right? Like, I'm working hard enough. You know I don't like to work.
Do you remember the part that was left out?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Does it refresh your memory to the rest of your statement to the grand jury?
You guys see, like, it's Brennan. The part that was left out, Robert Alessi left that out, didn't he? Totally out of context, huh? Like, Hank Brennan, look in the fucking mirror. You're the one that wants to play all those clips out of context.
I'm sorry, what was your question?
After looking at this, does it refresh your memory to the rest of your statement you made to the grand jury?
Yes.
And could you share the rest of your statement with the jury, please?
The rest of the statement was that I have to take those findings in the context which was presented to me. So in the case of this particular case, those hemorrhages in the context of a body found in the snow, I believe they were due to hypothermia.
Is your answer more complete in context?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
You were
Again, guys, he keeps pushing that narrative that Robert Alessi made Dr. Scortibello testify out of context. Robert Alessi referred to a small portion of Dr. Scortibello's statements, and Robert Alessi took it out of context. That's what Hank Brennan is saying, and that's what Hank Brennan is trying to drive home for this jury. And he keeps fucking doing it. He keeps using the words out of context. What is that? The rest of what you were saying? Like the right? Like and Judge Bev keeps telling him he's out of control, guys. Okay? The corruption isn't just with Judge Bev. It's also with Hank Brennan, and Hank Brennan is not afraid of Judge Bev. You guys see this? This is a demonstration of how relentless and ruthless Hank Brennan is. He is continuing with his bullshit despite multiple sustained objections, right? Sustained. And we all know how rarely Judge Bev will sustain an objection from the defense.
shown a photograph of two individuals that were in the room at the time of autopsy. Do you remember that photograph?
Yes, I do.
And you were asked about certain names.
Correct.
You said that there would be a log identifying names.
It would be a log, yes.
A log. Do you remember exactly who logged in to that autopsy?
No, I don't remember their names.
May I approach?
Show Mr. Alessi.
It's part of the end report. It's in there. Take a look at the report. You have it.
Your Honor, if we need sidebar to explain, we just need a moment to take a look.
I can move on and we'll come back to it, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Brennan.
You mentioned that Mr. O'Keefe's body temperature was a little under 81 degrees when he was brought to the hospital.
Yes, that's what the hospital records stated.
And again, a normal body temperature is?
98 degrees.
So there was, is it fair to say there was over an 18-degree drop in his body temperature?
Correct.
You shared with us that you generally understood it was a blizzard and cold outside. Do you have any experience on how rapidly a body temperature will drop outside?
The body temperature?
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor, scope.
No, it's within the scope. Let's see if she's got the basis for it.
The rate that the body loses heat depends on a number of factors. Depends on conditions, weather conditions. It depends on the original temperature of the body, and the higher the gradient between the body temperature and the environmental temperature, the faster the drop will occur.
You were asked if there's any signs of frostbite. There was no type of freezer burns or anything on Mr. O'Keefe's body, was there?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Was there any type of burns on his body that would suggest that he was put in some type of machine or environment where there was cooling, mechanical cooling?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained. Sustained. Move on, Mr. Brennan.
You were shown a photograph, a chalk that had.
And I don't even know where he was going with that, really. Like, where was Hank Brennan going with that? What difference does it make if John was put in a refrigerator. Like, do you guys get it? Let me know in the comments, because I don't know where Hank Brennan was going with that.
It had spots on them. Do you know where that photograph came from?
I do not.
Do you know who that was from, what person that was from?
No, I do not know the context of that picture.
Do you have any information on the circumstances which led to that condition?
I do not.
Do you have any information about what caused the condition that you saw on that chalk?
I have seen similar pictures in textbooks depicting gastric hemorrhages or Wisniewski spots.
You were asked about your role as a medical examiner, and there were a number of questions about your assessment from a legal perspective.
Yes.
You mentioned that you had information from a police report. How many police reports were you given?
There was a preliminary police report, I believe, the day of the autopsy, and communications with law enforcement in the days and weeks following.
May I approach?
Yes.
Showing you a document. Do you recognize that document?
Yes.
What is it?
This is a police report on this particular case.
Is that a police report from your file?
Yes.
And that police report, is that the police report that you considered?
Amongst other information, yes.
How many lines is that police report?
11.
What's the date and time of that police report?
This was initiated on January 29th. It says at 1941.
I have this marked for identification, Your Honor.
Okay.
And in the witness another document.
Let us mark it.
Oh, sorry, let me have that back.
Yeah.
2Q for identification.
Thank you. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Second document, is that another document in your file?
Yes.
And is that another report that you considered?
Yes.
How many lines is that report?
5.
I'd move to have this marked for identification, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Exhibit RR for identification.
May I approach again?
Yes.
I'm going to go back to the questions I asked you about logging in and refreshing your memory.
Mhm.
I'm going to hand you a document. I'm not going to actually read it aloud. I'm just going to ask you to look at it. Does it refresh your memory on the people who attended the autopsy?
Yes.
And who were they?
I believe one person was Mr. Keefe and the other one was Mr. Corner.
Are you part of the criminal investigation team?
No, I am not.
Did you go to the scene and evaluate any evidence?
No, I did not.
Did you do any of your own detective work or investigation in this case?
No, I did not.
So when you were asked questions about your role as the medical examiner in your medical evaluation of Mr. O'Keefe's body, you were also asked whether you considered any part of the legal aspect. Do you remember those questions?
Yes.
You would never, well, let me ask you. You submitted the death certificate on April 14th.
Correct.
I want to talk about some of the things that you may or may not have known about or considered at the time you wrote your death certificate or filed your death certificate? Were you informed or were you aware that before you filed your death certificate, there was information in the investigation that police spoke to a first responder by the name of Timothy Nuttall, who reported that the defendant
I'm going to allow it.
that the defendant said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. Were you aware of that
I became aware of it at some point.
during your?
And that's a question more so for the jury than for Scorty Bello. I've said it over and over again, guys, before the retrial even began. I've said it over and over again about Hank Brennan. Hank Brennan must have studied propaganda because he clearly thinks that if he repeats a lie over and over again, people will believe it. And that's exactly what he's doing in this moment. For the jury, repeat the lie. I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, even though not a single member of law enforcement wrote it in a police report. Not a single first responder wrote it in a report. 4 police officers from Canton PD said they never heard Karen Reed say it. Other people said the same thing. They never heard Karen Reed say it. And also, before the first trial, and there was a grand jury, nobody, guys, nobody, none of the McCabe's, none of the Alberts, nobody from the MSP, nobody from Canton PD, nobody said, Karen Reed said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, for the grand jury. They made up that lie before the first trial began.
90-day window?
I believe so.
Were you aware that there was another first responder by the name of McLaughlin who provided information that the defendant said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him?
Yes.
Were you aware of statements made by the defendant?
It's like 3 times, 4 times, 20 times, right? Yeah, all of those versions are the truth. Right, Hank Brennan? Right? Just keep saying it. Somebody in the jury will believe it. Somebody in the jury will be dumb enough to not think for themselves, and they'll just believe it like hypnosis. Right, Hank Brennan?
To Ms. McCabe that she said, may have I hit him? Did I hit him?
Objection, Honor, may we approach, please, briefly?
Okay. Thank you.
And guys, I've talked a lot of shit about Sue O'Connell, but people have been sharing her tweets on Facebook in the Facebook groups. And I gotta give it to Sue O'Connell. She's right here, if you guys didn't see her. She's been posting some like objective tweets about what's going on in the courtroom. So if you guys don't know, now you know. Try to find her on X if you can. I'll try to share some of those screenshots too. She's doing a good job.
So jurors, I want to let you know that like other evidence that was let in previously, this is not coming in for the truth of what's in the statements. It's coming in so that as it goes to Dr. Scorty Bello's knowledge and state of mind at the time of her report.
Thank you. At the time of your death certificate that you filed, were you informed that a Jennifer McCabe had reported that the defendant said, Did I hit him or could I have hit him multiple times?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'm going to allow it.
I don't believe I knew about Miss McCabe.
Did you learn that Ms. McCabe reported later that the defendant, while speaking to first responders, reported that she had hit him? Did you know that?
I was aware of that information later on.
Were you aware of the investigation regarding alcohol consumption?
Yes,
Were you aware that the police or Massachusetts State Police spoke to other witnesses about their observations that night?
about their,
Their observations?
yes,
Were you aware of an interview by Trooper Buchanan with firefighter Daniel Whitley on February 7, 2022?
And guys, just listen to this line of questioning. What is it really telling us? What's the big picture? What is it really telling us? This prosecution wants the jury to rely on hearsay. This prosecution wants the jury to rely on the statements of the people who were directly involved in the cover-up of John O'Keefe's murder. This prosecution wants the jury to rely on statements, not on the science.
I don't remember.
Were you aware that Mr. Whitley told the police that the defendant had expressed that she had gotten into an argument with the defendant that night?
That was part of the information I was given, yes.
Were you aware of a report from first responder Anthony Flamate about statements made by the defendant to him?
I don't recall that particular first responder, no.
Were you aware of statements provided by Kerry Roberts to the police that the defendant had called her, citing Kerry, John is dead,
Yeah, I was given that information.
and the questions of did I hit him? Were you aware of that?
Yes,
Were you aware of information that troopers had an opportunity to go and speak to the defendant?
yes,
Were you aware of the statements that she made to the troopers?
not in detail.
Were you aware that when they spoke to her on January 29th, she informed that she had a broken taillight on her vehicle but did not know how it happened?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'll allow that.
She shouldn't have. Judge Bev shouldn't have allowed it because it's misrepresentation of the facts. It's a perfectly valid objection. Hank Brennan is misstating the facts. That's a perfectly valid objection from Robert Alessi.
Yes, I was.
In that, I didn't finish what I was saying. In that, Karen Reed never said, I don't know how I cracked my taillight. She clearly said, I backed into John's car. Right? Like, again, Hank Brennan is misstating the facts. Karen Reed never said, I cracked my taillight and I don't know how I cracked it.
Was provided with that information.
Were you provided the information that she had never observed John enter the residence?
I believe that was part of the original information, yes.
Were you aware that she informed relative to the broken right taillight she didn't know how it happened?
Yes, I was.
Were you aware that members of the Massachusetts State Police obtained John O'Keefe's phone and did a forensic data analysis on it?
I was not aware of that until much, much later.
After you filed your report?
Correct.
Were you aware of location data that was obtained from John O'Keefe's phone before you filed the death certificate?
No, I was not.
Were you aware of healthcare data on John O'Keefe's phone before you filed the death certificate?
No, I was not.
Were you aware of battery temperature data on Mr. O'Keefe's iPhone before you filed your death certificate?
No, I was not.
Were you aware of voice messages left on John O'Keefe's phone from the defendant before you filed your death certificate?
No, I was not.
Were you aware of text messages between the defendant and
All of these questions are redundant. You know, they're like unnecessary. I wish somebody would object, and I wish Judge Bev would just say asked and answered, because the question was answered 5 questions ago when Hank Brennan asked Scorty Bello, did you know that the MSP obtained John O'Keefe's cell phone? And she said, I didn't find out about that until a while after the fact, until a while after she issued the death certificate, right? Like, so what's the point of Hank Brennan asking all these questions that she can't answer, even though she already answered that she couldn't answer it? Like, what? Like, I don't know. And I also don't know why Hank Brennan thinks this is helping him. I don't know how he thinks this is helping him. She clearly still said she couldn't determine the manner of death.
John O'Keefe before you filed your death certificate?
No.
Were you aware of statements from the defendant to various media outlets before you filed your death certificate?
No, I was not.
Did anybody ever come to you after you filed your death certificate and ask you to change it?
No.
Did anybody ever provide you any of this additional information you weren't aware of at the time, ask you to evaluate it, and then reconsider your finding?
No.
You were asked some questions about impact injuries. In your experience, are most pedestrian collisions where there's injuries to the lower legs, either frontal or rear impacts?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'll allow that because I'll allow that.
Most pedestrian fatalities that we see are with impact with the front of the vehicle.
When you gave the perspective that you looked for impact injuries, was that with consideration of your experience that most collisions are frontal impact injuries?
Most collisions involve frontal impact, yes.
How about cases where you've had an opportunity to observe people who sustained injuries from being clipped? Not hit, but just being clipped. Is your opinion any different in your experience?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained in that form.
Okay. How about a side swipe injury? Is that different relative to your expectations to lower extremity injuries?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
A bruise on the knee, is that consistent with a side swipe impact?
Could be.
Did you do any type of biomechanical analysis of any alleged collision in this case?
No, I did not.
Were you asked to?
I'm not qualified to do that.
And so when you talk about injuries from a collision, are you in part speculating about what could happen to somebody?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained in that form.
Are you giving a direct opinion in this case about how the injuries were caused?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
You were asked questions about a nose laceration,
Yes,
and you offered that was not consistent with falling backwards on the head alone.
correct.
You were asked if that was consistent with a punch.
Correct.
Objection,
Um,
Your Honor.
That's not the testimony. That's your objection. Mr.
That is,
Lacey.
Your Honor. There's no question.
Did you provide an opinion that
Finally, right? Finally, it's misstatement of facts. Hank Brennan is misstating the facts. Judge Beverly Cannoni herself just said it. Alessi didn't even have to explain. Judge Beverly Cannoni said it herself. That was not the testimony, was it? Not even Judge Bev can control Hank Brennan.
it could be consistent with a punch?
I did provide that opinion.
Could it be consistent with broken glass?
It's possible.
Could it be consistent with sharp shards from broken plastic?
Possible.
Could it be consistent with first aid?
I'm sorry, what was
Could
it?
it be consistent with first aid treatment?
Anything is possible.
Wow. All that effort just for her to be like, anything's possible. Like, yeah, ask me anything and it's probably possible. It's like his line of questioning just got muddied. It just got blurry because anything's possible.
Do you have any firsthand knowledge of how the laceration on the nose happened?
I do not have firsthand knowledge.
Did you know at the time you filed your death certificate that there was plastic pieces of taillight found near Mr. O'Keefe's body around 5:45 p.m. on January 29, 2022?
I do believe some of that information was communicated to us, yes.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Lacey.
Thank you, Your Honor. Dr. Scorti-Bello, this Attorney Brennan just asked you questions about alcohol consumption. You had the opportunity to evaluate the medical records of Mr. O'Keefe, correct?
Correct.
And you had, in terms of the medical records, information with regard to the medications that Mr. O'Keefe had taken, is that correct?
I believe I reviewed those records at some point prior to issuing my report, yes.
Do you recall the list of medications that were in the medical records that Mr. O'Keefe was on?
I do not recall.
If I were to show you a document, might that refresh your recollection as to the list of medications?
I'm going to allow it. Is in connection with alcohol too, you said, right?
Correct, Your
Go
Honor.
right ahead.
Yeah, Coach, Your Honor.
Yes.
Dr. May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Dr. Scorti-Bello, may I stand by the witness here?
Yes.
Thank you. Dr. Scorti-Bello, I am providing you with a document. Up at the top it says John O'Keefe, and I would like to draw your attention to medications. And to expedite it, I am going to focus on the fourth item on that list. Can you state what that medication is?
The fourth item is omeprazole.
Does that refresh your recollection as to one of the medications Mr. O'Keefe was on?
Yes,
And that medication is,
it's an antacid.
right, and so omeprazole is the trade name of omeprazole Pepsid?
I believe so.
And Pepsid is a proton pump inhibitor?
Correct.
And a proton pump inhibitor stops the proton pump in the stomach from releasing acid, correct?
Yes.
And we're going to come back to that in just a moment, but do you also recall testifying at the grand jury with regard to alcohol consumption and potential alcohol consumption of Mr. O'Keefe?
I do remember testifying, yes.
And do you recall what your testimony was with regard to alcohol consumption and small ulcers in the stomach potentially associated with alcohol consumption?
Alcohol consumption, I don't recall my exact words at grand jury, but alcohol consumption can lead to gastric ulcers.
And alcohol consumption can lead to gastric ulcers. And what medications can treat gastric ulcers?
Well, they don't treat them, they prevent them, but that would be a proton pump inhibitor such as omeprazole.
Right. So, isn't it correct, therefore, that the ulcers that are observed in the stomach of Mr. O'Keefe that we talked about, the gastric mucosa, could have come from ulceration due to alcohol consumption?
It's possible.
As opposed to hypothermia, correct?
Correct.
Props to Robert Alessi. And this isn't his entire cross. Please watch the entire cross if you haven't already. Robert Alessi educates himself. I've heard him referred to as a nerd, which is a good thing to me. He knows what he's talking about, unlike the prosecution. And he does it so smoothly. He just flows with this information, and he knows what he's talking about to the extent that even Dr. Scorty Bello is like, yep. It's almost she even smiles at him at times, as if she's impressed with his knowledge.
Attorney Brennan asked you questions moments ago, and actually several of them, of which included the words, did I hit him? Could I hit him? Do you recall those questions?
I do.
And isn't it correct that you had that information before you issued your final findings in this matter in April of 2022?
Yes, I did.
So, even though you had all that information, you still were unable to conclude the manner of death of Mr. O'Keefe, correct?
Correct.
Boom. Mic drop. Absolutely. That was my point earlier. I don't know where Hank Brennan is going with that line of questioning, because she's still determined that the manner of death is undetermined. So it clearly didn't matter that the MSP tried to shove in her head everything that the liars said that morning, right? It didn't matter. It didn't influence her decision. She still decided to think for herself. And Robert Alessi is pointing that out to the jury, that whatever the people said, whatever hearsay Hank Brennan wants to highlight, doesn't really fucking matter.
Thank you, Dr. Scorty Bello.
All right, Doctor, you are all set.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I'm going to see Counselor.
And that was an excellent way to conclude it. I'm, again, so impressed by this defense team. I'm so impressed by Robert Alessi for working hard to defend this innocent woman. And guys, also observe Karen Reed's body language too. I remember Alan Jackson in an interview saying how she's very much involved in her own defense. She gives other attorneys a run for their money, Karen Reed's really good at learning the process, learning the system, and understanding how to read law. And it's so impressive. And when you observe her body language in that clip too, you can clearly see she's She's not leaving it up to her attorneys. She's actively participating in her own defense. It's impressive to see. Anyway, good job, Robert Alessi. Good job, defense team. Thank you for watching.